Sterifab, like the Swiss Army knife of pest
Oh,
control.
okay.
It's an EPA-registered insecticide, viricide, disinfectant, sanitizer, deodorizer that kills a whole assortment of insects. Bed bugs, fleas, mites, lice, roaches, and...
Welcome back to Pest Radio, the podcast where we talk with leaders shaping the future of pest control industry, from business growth to marketing, operations, and the real stories behind the people building this space. I'm Faye Cebioglu, founder of Digital Karma. We help pest control and home service businesses grow faster by building systems that attract the right leads and convert them into real customers. Our focus is simple: real growth, real numbers, and marketing you can actually trust. And today's guest brings a unique perspective to the pest control industry, blending law, business, and manufacturing into one journey. He started his career as a lawyer, but transitioned into the pest control space through his family's manufacturing business, where he had to quickly learn the industry from the ground up by attending conferences, meeting operators, and understanding real field challenges. That's how also we met. Today, he's actively involved in promoting and growing solutions that combine disinfection and pest control into one product, helping companies work more efficiently while meeting increasing hygiene expectations. Please welcome Jordan Brooks, representing Sterifab.
Thanks for having me. Happy we met in DC, as you mentioned, at a conference. So I feel very fortunate to be here and grace the same screen that both you and Marty Roberts have shared. So very happy to be here.
You watched that episode?
Oh, yeah. He's a big fish. I listened. So, yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay. It was a great conversation with him also. I really enjoyed that speak. Yeah. So, Jordan, it was so nice to meeting you also at Legislative Day. And your journey into pest control, we talk about it a little bit, but I want to hear it also at podcast. So your journey into pest control is not a typical one. You started as a lawyer. Can you take us through that transition? What made you decide to leave law and join your family's manufacturing business?
Sure. Well, I never thought I would be here in this role or speaking to you in this capacity, certainly. I was a private practice attorney for 15 years. I went to law school because I wanted to be the next Jerry Maguire. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it's about
we all
sports agent. Yeah, I don't have the looks that he has, but that's what I wanted to do.
Fine.
That's what I wanted to do. Went to law school, enjoyed litigation. I tried that sports agent segment a little bit. Wasn't really for me. I went into litigation, which essentially is like court battles, focusing primarily on trust and estates. So will contest or elder abuse or things in that realm. I enjoyed it. I worked with a great group of attorneys, which you don't always get to do. But as you mentioned, actually my uncle's father invented a product called Sterifab, which is an
I didn't know
all-in-one.
that. Oh.
Yeah. So
it's like your third generation.
Yes. Third generation of Sterifab, fourth generation technically in like this manufacturing company, you would say. Sterifab was created in 1967 by my uncle's father.
So we can say there is any legacy there.
Yes, for sure, right? We're looking at almost 1967. So I'm looking at almost, check my math, 60 years on the market starting next year. So my uncle was looking for a succession plan. Both his kids, who I'm very close to, weren't in a position or they did not really want to come into the business. One is on the West Coast of the family, doing really well in Hollywood. The other one is very successful in the academic realm. So I was 40 years old and I had conversations with my uncle about what this would look like. And I figured, you know what, why not give it a shot? I always have my law degree and I keep up my licensing and registration requirements. And I do any legal matters that we have here. But I figured, why not take a shot and try to carry on this great legacy with this great product that my uncle, and his father created and have brought to the market and has had great success. So that's how I got here. And that was 5 years ago. And we're going strong. And I'm very happy I made the move based on the relationships I've made and things you learn on a day-to-day basis. And also the sort of, family time and work-life balance that allows me to have, even though clearly things get busy and we go on, we can go on long trips
Mm-hmm.
in connection with the industry, but overall it's been a good life change and I'm enjoying it.
So how was it at the beginning? You mentioned learning the industry through conferences and events. What were some key lessons early on?
Key lessons are that you will not sell anything being behind a desk all day. I didn't know anything about the industry. I barely knew anything about bed bugs, which is one of the reasons that Sterifab became prominent in the early 90s. And then I went onto LinkedIn, became active on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, which I really wasn't as an attorney. LinkedIn also hadn't quite hit its stride yet, I would say, compared to what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that there are all these pest management conferences going on and that I need to get out there. So I saw something about a conference with Target Specialty Products in Virginia. And
They
I
are the
called
distributors, right?
distributor, yeah. And I called Marcus Johnson, who's one of the distributor reps. That was in March of 22. So like 3 months after I started. And he said, well, this really isn't a vendor sort of event, but you know what? Come down. I'll give you a table right next to mine and I won't charge you anything. And I ended up meeting lots of people who I still remain in touch with, all because of his generosity. And then through meeting people in the Virginia Pest Management Association, such as the Quran sisters and other people, I started to get the lay of the land, and other vendors will let me know what events they were doing. And pretty much like you've done it, Faye, right? You ask around what events are worthwhile, what should I be going to? You start getting involved with certain associations. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So, and
But hear
that's
you.
how I did.
Yeah. It didn't used to be like this, at the beginning. I remember first time we exhibited at Pest World, I thought, oh, it's a great event. We had like 150 leads, so we're going to be rich. Okay. But no, it doesn't work like that. And as much as I attended these conferences, events, I loved it, Now it's not about only money, or having new pest control company as a customer. It's a great industry. I have great relationships now, friends in the industry. So I hear you.
Yeah, it's I can't, rave enough about certain, many people who made me feel really welcome when I was walking around like a deer in headlights, at the first several conferences, whether it was, Sam Forrest from Corteva or Lisa from Corteva or, Pete Danello from Neogen. Jeff Cotto from Nisus, just a bunch of people who at the time I had no affiliation with in any way. They made me feel extremely welcome, even though we weren't necessarily on the same team, right? So it's a very friendly industry. And yeah, I value the relationships a lot. And like you said, it's not about just selling something. It's about being part of a community. So yeah, it's been great.
He says no to show me the money, but...
Yeah, no,
like
we're
in
not.
Jerry Maguire. But yeah, it's a great industry. It's very welcoming, like you said. And coming from outside the industry, what were the hardest things to understand at the beginning?
Well, hardest to understand, I was thinking about that. I think I was surprised at how many family businesses there are, right? Like how many businesses go back 2 or 3 generations. I think I was surprised at, not that, I'm necessarily seeing tons of it, but how much money is in, what is this, a $13 billion business, $14 billion business? How lucrative pest control is. I think that really surprised me. And in terms of difficulty, just learning that each customer has its unique challenges, unique needs, unique values, and just sort of managing those relationships based upon what they value and what they need. But I think it was more eye-opening given how lucrative it is, the amount of revenue, how knowledgeable everyone is. Yeah. I didn't know it was such a big business, and maybe that's naive, right? But I just didn't understand it.
It's not. Out of the industry, when I say I'm working for pest control companies, to my friends or, my family, they are so amazed at how big it is, Nobody could guess it. If you are not in the industry, nobody could guess it, I guess.
Well, when was your first Pest World? What was your first one?
Almost 3 years ago, 2024, October.
Right. So which one was that? Was that the one in
Denver?
Florida?
Denver.
Denver. I mean, it's amazing, right? Like how
Weird, sorry, yeah.
huge it is.
It is amazing. And how organized is it? The association is so organized.
Yeah.
That also amazes me a lot. It's like a, corporate, big corporate.
Oh, yeah.
So what helped you connect the dots faster? Was it people what I wanted to ask, or field experience, or something else,
Yeah, I don't think I've connected the dots yet, but I've started to, and it's all people. I think as we'll just discuss later. I mean, getting in, partnering with a great company like Nisus has helped me a lot. My first couple years when I was with nobody really, just Sterifab, I think I visited like 20 different states, 25 different states perhaps. So I get to know a lot of different players. So when I would go to, or I still go to national events, even if I'm not seeing those people as much, you'd still familiar faces. So I think it's just being present and being out there as much as possible within the constraints of obviously a budget, right? Schedules, getting work done that you need to get done that you sort of need to be either at home or in your office for. But yeah, it's all been advice from people in the industry, and helping to tie that together would be companies that have invited me out to do jobs with them or see what they do, or invite me to their offices. But again, that's not happening without making relationships, right? And that's not happening
right.
just sitting behind a desk and messaging people. That's going out with people and earning their trust. That's something that I was told really early by somebody. I was at a California pest management event in June of 22, and I was golfing with somebody, and he knew everybody. I said, how do you know everybody? So I went to MPMA Academy, and he was like a celebrity on the course. And I said, well, how long is it taking you to make these relationships? He says, it takes years to gain their trust. I said, what about like 6 months? That's how long I'd been in it. He's like, it's going to take a little longer than that, but you do see it evolve. You show up, you do the right thing, you support the industry, you show that you're genuinely not just out for yourself. And
also you feel like you're part of a big family. That's how I feel. Even though I'm newer than you, but I feel like I'm part of, I'm a lot more near. So even for me, I feel like, hey, I'm a part of something big,
Yeah, you are. Well, I mean, especially going to legislative day, right?
Going up to the hill. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the issues, the issue on the table really has nothing to do with your business other than supporting pest control professionals, right? So it's important, people see that you're spending your time and your, and your corp and your money.
It was also one of my best
time.
experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And it's just legitimately trying to help the industry. So yeah.
And do you think coming also from outside gave you an advantage in how you see the industry today? From this different perspective, because you have 15 years of low experience.
I don't know. I know that I probably wouldn't be as comfortable speaking in front of groups, like at the New York Pest Management Association event, I spoke about some regulatory issues. I think if you put me in that position 15 years ago or 20 years ago, I'm less comfortable. And maybe that's just with age, but being in front of a judge or a jury, right? You become more comfortable with public speaking, but I don't know that I see it any differently. I wish I did. Maybe it would give me an advantage. I don't really see it any differently other than maybe being able to see many sides of an issue. Maybe able to help New York pest management in terms of regulatory issues. But I don't know if that's seeing it differently. It's just maybe a vantage point that I'm able to help a little more is what I would say.
Okay, let's talk about Sterifab. For those who are not familiar, how would you describe it in simple terms? And what makes Sterifab different from traditional pest control products?
A friend of mine who works at Avalon in New York City, which is a large commercial pest management company, Brandon Gomez, he calls it Sterifab like the Swiss Army knife of pest control.
Okay.
So I really like that. What that means is that unlike any other product on the market, it's an EPA registered insecticide, viricide, disinfectant, sanitizer, deodorizer that kills a whole assortment of insect, whether that be bed bugs, fleas, mites, lice, roaches, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the only product that is EPA registered that can make all those claims. There are some other products that maybe may kill, flies and maybe something else, but in terms of having that broad spectrum and
Mm-hmm.
being a disinfectant, sanitizer, deodorizer, virucide, it's the only product in the market like that, which means that you could accomplish a lot of things with just one product, which adds value to both the pest management company and the consumer.
So Sterifab being both a disinfectant and insecticide and also effective on both hard and soft surfaces. So can you break that down for us in simple terms? What exactly makes this combination so unique? How does it change the way pest control companies you actually use and think about a product like this in the field? That does that mean, like, I'm not from the industry, so maybe it may seem a very dumb question, but like they don't need any other product, Is it
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
So
it's
if
not
if
a
they
dumb question.
if they use Sterifab, is it enough? So they don't need any other products? Because I know there are lots of products in the market, but I'm not familiar how they use it.
Yeah. Well, in certain situations, the answer is yes. That would be the only
Uh-huh.
product to use. In others, it should be used in tandem, right? So I'll
Uh-huh.
give a couple examples for you.
Yeah.
If you have a bed bug infestation on a hard or soft surface, Sterifab is a contact kill, meaning it will kill the bed bugs, but at the same time, it also sanitize, disinfect, and deodorize where those bed bugs were, right? Because oftentimes
Okay.
bed bugs will leave like a funky smell and they may leave fecal matter behind. Now, if a surface like a mattress is totally destroyed because it's a major infestation, you'll probably just get rid of it, right? But if
Yeah.
it's salvageable, or if you're in a commercial setting like assisted living, right, nursing home, hospital, you will use Sterifab to disinfect, sanitize, and kill. Now, to your question about whether you would use Sterifab alone or with something else, with bed bugs, you would use Sterifab as what's called the contact kill. It will kill all stages of bed bugs, including the eggs. But then you want to use another product for what's called the residual effect, right? You might go underneath the box spring, around the perimeter of the room and cracks and crevices there are many other products out there that are great that you'd use to protect for, weeks or months, depending upon the product. What people like about Sterifab and why you'd use it on those skin contact surfaces, like a couch, any other upholstered furniture, like a mattress, like bedding, is that once it dries, it's no longer active. So if you were to apply Sterifab on your bed, I hope you would never have to, right? But let's say you have fleas, bed bugs, or something, or mites, something like that. You're not going to be laying in an active insecticide. And then you would apply the pesticide, biopesticide, whatever you choose to use, in other parts of the room that perhaps you're not going to be touching with your skin, or you're certainly not nearly as often. Where would you use Sterifab on its own? That could be in an attic, could be in a crawl space where you're looking to kill insects, but also sanitize and deodorize. So if let's say you're putting in new insulation in an attic and you've had a rodent infestation, you're clearing out insulation, you're putting new insulation in, you could then spray Sterifab around that attic and it'll be like a whole new attic because you're totally disinfecting and deodorizing. And there you wouldn't need anything else. And it also would kill whatever insects are up there. So those are two examples to your question.
It makes sense now. For me, I'm sure everybody in the industry got it, better than me, but now it makes sense.
No. I hope I clarified. And listen, if enough people knew about it, that would be great. But we're still very much being based in the Northeast. Partnering with Nisus about 2 years ago has allowed us to reach a much greater audience, but there are still many, many pest control operators, owners, technicians out there who don't know about the product. So or if they know, they don't know about all its uses, right? Some people know it just as a disinfectant. Some people know it just as a bed bug killer, right? And if you have a product that you love for bed bugs, we're not going to turn you off. That's great. But maybe there are other ways you can use it that can help your business.
I hope this episode will help this a little bit, sending the message.
I appreciate that.
So this is what I was going to ask you, but you already replied that. Do you feel like the industry fully understands products like Sterifab yet, or is there still an education gap? And how do you approach educating business owners versus technicians? So what do you do for that?
Sure. So again, being with Nisus, which based in Tennessee, but I have 14 sales representative, regional managers, et cetera, through the country. They, in tandem with me, hopefully have a chance to go into companies and speak about the different advantages of Sterifab. I've found that that's the best way. You meet someone at an event, such as the ones that we've met at, Faye, and then you use that. Hopefully you build up enough of a rapport. And if there's a desire on the pest management professionals' part to learn more about the product, so I'm not going to be pushy, but if they want to learn more about it and feel it can add value, then it's great to go in and speak to the technical team, speak to the technicians. I would say the only difference in terms of speaking to, let's say, an owner or a manager as opposed to a technician is that although, a lot of companies do have sales incentives for technicians as well, with an owner, you're going to sort of promote both the value and the efficacy that Sterifab has. So, and this sort of gets into one of, I think, questions we may discuss later, but if you're doing a rodent job and rodents leaving behind all sort of, feces and pathogens, well, why not use Sterifab to offer a cleanup service where you're leaving a healthier home than you found it? Explain that additional value, or the fact that because Sterifab is inactive after about 20 minutes when it dries, you can use that in the hospital and allow an ER to get back up and running, within a half an hour, right?
They don't need to wait, yeah.
Right. Explain to the owners. Now, hospitals may have internal protocols, but if they're willing to even bring those down from 4 hours to 2 hours, for example, some products require a 4-hour waiting period. Sterifab is simply upon drying. So you sort of provide that information to owners / managers, technical services managers about the additional monetary value that Sterifab can add. Whereas technicians, again, they may very well be invested in the value too, but the bare minimum about letting them know the different tools they could potentially have in their toolbox.
So you mentioned that you have been partners with Nisus. They're a larger manufacturer and they have impact on the industry. So how did that affected your growth and, distribution? Like, can we give us some, statistics or numbers?
I mean, it's been a wonderful partnership for us. It, for me, it's just being associated with such high quality individuals, I think just adds credibility to our product, because Nisus products are very highly regarded. I think you'll find that universally if you ask any pest control professional. They have a tremendous array, whether it be products for termites, treating wood, whether it be small flies, whether it be roaches, whether it be their own sanitizer, disinfectant. They have just a tremendous stable of products, and all of their people, whether it be the president, Lee Barrett, whether it be Harry Bryan, John Singletary, George Williams, any of their people have such wonderful reputations because they really do speak the truth. If a product of Nisus is not appropriate for the situation, they're not going to push it. They're also going to be available 24/7. So being associated with them has been the greatest thing. Yes, the geographical reach that they provide, rather than me trying to hop from state to state, is a tremendous advantage. But being associated with them is the best thing that ever could have happened. Just the education that I get. Plus, given the fact that they have some great events. Harry and John Singletary are expert barbecuers. They're renowned. They're renowned for their overnight.
I never heard that.
Well, you will, because there's going to be a New York event that they're going to do.
I'll be there.
They pull an all-nighter and they make the best brisket I've ever had. That's for sure.
Good to know. When is it?
I'll let you know. Hopefully in the fall.
All right.
So everything they do is great. So it's just being associated with them is the best thing.
Manufacturing perspective, what challenges do people in pest control usually not see?
I would say a couple things. One, regulatory. There may be restrictions on the use of certain chemicals / ingredients in your product, label requirements that you may be required to comply with. They may require a label change. the amount of testing that goes into that. So when you have to satisfy EPA testing standards for efficacy, it could be a 3-year period with expenditures of 6 figures just to just to have certain pests or targets remain on your label. Those may be things that pest control operators don't recognize that you have to deal with. So regulatory is certainly one, and the other is just the procurement of whether it be your bottles, whether it be your labels, whether it be your ingredients, right? You're at the mercy of the supply chain. So sometimes, although not often, sometimes you're forced to delay delivery because you're waiting on a cap or a bottle or a label or an active. And you are totally at the mercy of like I said, of the supply chain. Prices, right? We're dealing with a major world event right now, which is impacting prices at the pump and with respect to all of the materials. So even though they're domestically sourced, there's ramifications that ripple.
Yeah, there's transportation, fee, and now it's more expensive, I guess, for you.
Yeah, there's all of that. Freight charges, exactly. Great point. So those are some of them, some of those factors, maybe ones that pest control operators are cognizant of because they have their own fuel charges that they have to deal with. But there may be more that they don't think about, such as the cost of the bottle, the cost of delivery of those products, et cetera. So I would say regulatory and supply chain are two of the items that some may be aware of, but some also may not be.
So from your perspective, where is the pest control industry heading? Do you see more demand on products that combine multiple functions like cleaning and pest control? What do you see it?
I hope so. That would be good for me. Where do I see it? I certainly see more, let's call it like low impact products, right? Which is one of the reasons I hope we're in a good spot with Sterifab because it's non-residual. So it's it's not active for a long time. You also see with the botanical products that you're seeing a lot of demand for, what we call 25Bs, right? That don't go through the EPA, but are approved by the states because they have natural sort of botanical ingredients. There's no question the industry's headed that way. And there seem to be many more regulations that we all have to comply with.
What about, it just came to my mind, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we are working with AI a lot as agencies, marketing agencies. Like I just, I'm an engineer, so I'm kind of a little bit familiar with chemistry because of the education I got. So what about smart products like?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Great call. There'll be some manufacturers who you'll see at future events you've already met who have like smart rodent stations, right? So you will be in your office as a pest, as a pest management professional, and you can detect whether a bait station or a trap has caught, or what kind of activity there is with respect to rodents or insects. So that's a huge one, and that lessens the need for people to go out stations. If you know that the bait has not been eaten or a rodent has not been caught, you don't need to go out and determine if something has been caught, right? So that saves fuel, it saves labor. And similarly, by the use of that sport technology, you can determine where the pest pressures are the heaviest, in what portion of a warehouse or a building, right? Or a hotel. So to your point, absolutely. That is definitely gaining a lot of steam. It's not my specialty because right now that's not what our product does, but I know from being in industry, as you will, as you're no longer, there's a huge push for that.
Okay. So from a vendor standpoint, what are some common mistakes pest control companies make when evaluating or choosing products? How important, to choose the right products?
Yeah, I would say just avoiding a one-size-fits-all sort of approach and instead really thinking about what your customer needs. For example, there'll be some cases where Sterifab is appropriate to be used and some where it's not. And instead of being, wedded to a certain protocol, it's understanding and what approaches are needed and being flexible. I would say, that's something with respect to choosing products that you would want them to understand. And many are. It's not to say that it's a highly flexible industry where people are willing to try new products all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that you have to understand when to use certain products and when not to, and when a certain product can be effective or when it's not.
So if you were advising a pest control business owner today from a manufacturer's perspective, what is the one thing you believe they are not paying enough attention when it comes to the products they use?
It's a tough
What is
question.
missing?
Well, all right. It's tough for me to necessarily advise some of these folks, given how successful they are and how long they've been in business and the fact that revenue.
Think about the new ones,
but
just new in the industry. They,
yeah,
everybody is investing in pest control industry, and it's getting bigger and bigger every year. Okay, and there, a lot of technicians left companies and found their own pest control companies. So there are also new players in the market, and I know a lot of investors just, they're founding their own companies from the scratch. So, but I'm sure they are not as experienced as the companies we are talking about, like, the fourth generation, third generation. I'm sure these companies are also missing a lot of things.
I would say, one piece of advice, if I were speaking to, let's say, a technician who was going out on his or her own, would be to take into account the entire structure, whether it's commercial or residential, right? Think about what you can do, anything that's to do with protecting, and I heard Marty touch on this, public health and safety. So my example earlier where you were dealing with a rodent infestation, you want to take care of the rodents, but you also want to provide a healthier, cleaner space than you found it in. So don't focus just on eliminating the pest. Think about also cleaning up after the pest and ensuring that you're not going to have recurring issues either. So in terms of rodent control, making sure you're performing exclusion work, right? So what are you doing to close holes that would allow rodents to get into in the future? What are you doing to catch rodents that may still be in the structure? What are you doing to clean up after the rodents that are still there? Think of it holistically in terms of what you can do. What are you doing about the attic? What are you doing about the crawl space? What are you doing to both, number one, protect the customer, but number two, also add value to your services? I think that's the way. So like Nisus, not that, again, I gain no financial benefit from this, but Nisus came out with a new insulation, right? A boric acid infused insulation. Something like 87% or 89% of homes are under insulated or not insulated. So as a pest control professional, what can you do? Well, you can add on insulation into your part of your package, sanitize and clean, an attic or crawl space, etc., and also provide standard pest control services. So that's what I would think of the entire, not only like the immediate problem that you're being tasked with, but what can you do to add value? Because that's going to add both value and peace of mind to the customer, but also increase your revenue.
Yeah. In a competitive market, how can a pest control company actually stand out through the way they use products or deliver service? Not just, I'm talking about pricing.
You are talking about pricing or not talking about pricing?
No, I'm not talking about pricing.
Okay.
So actually, how can they actually stand out through the way they use products or how they deliver the service?
Well, I think number one, we all have experienced this. Number one, being courteous and explaining to the customer what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think that's the case with respect to several trades that we all employ, right? You want to understand what's going on in your home, especially when you're dealing with chemicals. You want to understand. So I think it's advisable for pest control companies to foster a relationship with the customer, explain why they're doing it, what the customer should expect, return phone calls, be on time. All of these soft skills, I think, are important. And also, don't use more than you have to, right?
Yeah.
There are some customers who I've been told want to smell something or they want to see something being done, but most customers want you to be efficient judicious, and simply effective, right?
So you
With the
say
least amount of material.
they need to educate their customers.
I think so.
Okay. And looking at your journey so far, from law to pest control, what are you most proud of?
Probably just the nature of the relationships that I formed. I think people understand that, like you, I do feel like it's a family. That word can be overused, but certainly a close-knit
No,
community.
no, it's not overused.
You know?
I can directly say, I can call people and ask questions whenever I need them. So I don't think so. In this industry, we are just using as a, how do I say it, overused. It's not overused, I
Right.
guess.
Okay, no, then
Yeah.
that's good then.
Sorry.
I'm glad you feel that. No, good. Correct me. I don't know what I don't know what I'm talking about. I think the nature of relationships. I'm serving on the legislative committee in New York State, as you know, from being at Legislative Day, dealing with a couple of issues right now. I think, go toward, the betterment of public health, the community, and the industry that have nothing to do with my bottom line. But I feel
Mine's
very strongly
also,
about it. Yeah, I feel very strongly
hear
about it
you.
because if there's legislation that goes through, it's going to impact us as people. It's going to lead to greater disease. It's going to impact the way pest control professionals do business. It's going to hurt other manufacturers. So I'm proud of the work that I'm doing in that capacity as a state public affairs representative. I wouldn't say the guidance I've given, but I think relationships I've formed. Because I need a lot more guidance than I give, but yeah.
So what excites you most about the future?
I think just waiting to see how we all keep progressing together. You see certain leaps, people I've known now for 5 years, you see their advancements in their career. That excites me, to your point, where although AI to someone such as myself can be a little scary, to see where it brings us in terms of efficacy and improving public health and reducing infestation, but really to see where my friends in the industry, how they keep flourishing, I would say is what I'm most excited for.
And finally, what does success mean to you today? I think you have already answered that question, but
Yeah,
I don't know. May repeat it.
I think success means both finding satisfaction personally and professionally. And I have 2 kids, ensuring that I'm a part of their lives. I'm trying to set a good example that I'm being a good husband to my wife, and I'm being a good friend, and also helping this industry move forward. What can I tell you? I don't know. I think that's it. But I think we could have a lot of libations and talk about success for what does it mean for a long time. But I think just being a good father, being a good husband, being a good steward of the industry are all the most important things to me.
Well, if you go back to the first day in this industry, what would you tell yourself?
Enjoy the ride. You're going to meet a lot of great people. Other than that, I'm not sure. Just get involved as much as possible with the industry. Be kind, and there's enough business out there for everybody.
Okay, so thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. It was very educational for me also. I think this was a really valuable conversation because I never ever had the chance to spend time with a manufacturer, learn about products that the industry are using. And thank you very much for taking the time to share your experience and insights with our audience.
My pleasure. I'm glad we met. I'm glad that you're part of this New York caucus we have, and you add a lot of life and interesting perspective on everything you do. So I look forward to spending more time together.
So thank you very much, Jordan. Hope to see you soon somewhere else with another conference or another NYPMA event. Thank you.
We will, for sure. Thank you.